PDF files. The answer is out there.
The Microsoft Fabric Certification Podcast with Kevin and Frank.
Episode 3, The Incremental Uprising.
I have a question. Your company uses a Microsoft Fabric data warehouse to store frequently updated customer transaction data. You need to design an ETL process that minimizes load on source systems while ensuring only new or changed data is loaded. What should you do? Select only one answer. A. Implement a trigger-based change detection. B. Perform nightly full data loads. C. Use a timestamp column for incremental data loading. D. Use change data. Capture CDC for tracking source data changes.
Hello, Kevin. How are you doing?
Good, thanks, Frank. How about yourself?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. Well, you heard the lady calling in, and so she was asking about frequently updated customer transaction data, right? So what is our take on this? Let's talk a little bit about this. We talked a bit about a similar thing in the last episode, right? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, it's kind of similar, but obviously kind of not, because now we're being asked to come up with an ETL process for a pipeline related solution. So my thoughts about this, to be completely honest with you, obviously ETL has been around for many years and it's been used in different services. And now we've got to figure out the best one for frequently updated transactional data.
So maybe one question from me here, Kevin, is because there are probably students listening to this and not are in this industry as long as we are. So ETL, what stands ETL for? So
ETL, everybody, Frank's making me go back to textbook for you all here, folks. ETL stands for extract, transform, load, and it's essentially a method where you extract data from somewhere, a source system, or it could be source files. Then you do your transformations to that data before you do your final load into its destination. Nowadays, when you're working with something like Azure Data Factory or with factory data pipelines, you actually call this destination a sink potentially. So that is what an ETL process is.
I have one more question to you, Kevin. I've seen these 3 letters, but in some different combination. Can you talk about this as well?
Well, I'm guessing either you're talking about let, where you let something go past, and we're not talking about that, by the way, here, folks. We are very serious in this podcast, as you can tell. So there's also ELT as well, which is actually extract, load, and transform, which is becoming more popular over the years, where you actually do the extract of your data first from somewhere, and then you load it somewhere, and then you do your transformations after loading. So for those of you, for example, who are looking at things like medallion architectures, would have know about this concept anyway. So that's the main difference, Frank, between the letters the different way around.
Thank you very much for this insights.
You're welcome. Shall we go back to looking at the answers and pretend that's correct?
So let's think about the answers. So shall we do this exclusion method again?
The process of elimination, sure.
Yes. Okay. So let's think about the answers. So the first answer would be implement a trigger-based change detection. Okay, you're laughing. Why are you laughing, Kevin?
I'm laughing because so a lot of people would see this answer and think, well, I do know there's this new event-based trigger that we can use now to do all of this, and if you put new files in, it will work. Bear in mind, that's only for limited kind of activity. So this is not really suitable for this scenario, because if you see it's actually customer transaction data, it doesn't actually say from where, but it does say source systems. So you can probably assume it's not just file storage, it's potentially from databases, etc. as well. So I think, to be honest with you, Frank, we can probably rule this one out for now.
Okay, but what are your feelings about performing nightly full data load?
Well, coming from previous experience of loading terabytes of databases and supporting the data from terabytes of databases, I'm a little bit against this, to be honest with you, because it's a full data load, and I would not recommend doing a full data load if your source data is terabytes in size, to be completely honest with you. So I think we can rule this one out as well, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, but what is wrong with loading terabytes of data over and over and over again each night?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's going to take a while, potentially, if it's terabytes or petabytes in size.
Okay.
You could come into work the next morning, or maybe not, have a lie-in the next morning whilst it's still going, depending on if you've got bottlenecks in your network, etc., the size of your data. So that's the main problem. And you're also going to use a lot of storage and a lot of compute doing this as well.
And it just does not make sense to load the same data over and over again, because why should you, right? Okay, so, well, we are halfway through because we already eliminated 2 of them. So let's see what we else have in stock. So using a timestamp column for incremental data loading. So what's with this? Timestamp is a good thing, right? Because then you know when the data was changed.
The reality is this practice has been used a lot over the years. However, you do have to make sure that your schema actually has a timestamp column to start with. And it's in, and the other thing as well is that it's in the correct data type as well. I'm not going to point the finger at any relational database management systems here, but sometimes date time is not date time in all storage platforms. So you have to bear this in mind, that not every table always has a timestamp column. Yes, it would be great if they did, but there you go. And the other potential thing of doing this is that, yes, it will work. But imagine this, you've got source systems, again, going back to terabytes, petabytes in size. You want to keep check on the incremental load data tracking. You've got to come up with a mechanism to actually check those timestamps are valid. And then you will probably, if you're doing updates in your source system, because it's transactional data, and even though transactional means that it's probably new data, have to put in the mechanics to go and check any updates that have been performed as well. This can mean costly merge statements as well, etc., etc. So,
not so good.
I think with this in mind, we can probably look to rule this out.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, while we ruled out already 3 or 4 possible answer options, maybe D, use change data capture, CDC, for tracking source data changes. Can you talk a little bit about what is change data capture?
Yeah, it's basically a mechanism that's in place in various database management systems now, or IDBMS, however you want to look at it, which will basically keep a log of all the changes that have been performed over time, or over a series of time, basically. And it means that when you actually go to perform your updates, you can literally just use this change data capture mechanism to get all the latest updates over to your source systems. This is predominantly relational database management systems. It can be used to ingest data, for example, in the lakehouses, warehouses. It can also be used for this thing, Frank. Have you heard of real-time intelligence?
Never. What is this?
No. Newfangled thing apparently in Fabric,
Yeah.
So that is effectively what change data capture is, and it's fast and it's efficient.
And maybe I would like to give our listeners one other point on this question, which also is something you can think about if you do the real exam, right? So if you read the question, then there is your company uses Microsoft Fabric Data Warehouse to store frequently updated customer transactional data. And the next thing is you need to design an ETL process that minimizes load on source systems while ensuring only new or changed data is loaded. And I think this part, only new and changed data is loaded, is one of the keys to eliminate exactly one of the answers already, because the perform nightly full data load will exactly not do this, right? Because what this will do is it will load all of the data, and this is exactly what you don't want to do, right? So, and this is something as a general tip on certification questions, is that you have to see the wording and have to understand the wording and see, okay, well, there is obviously something in the answers which the question is already ruled out, like the full load, because if you do full load, you don't load only the changes, right? The other 2 answers might not be wrong. You can do something like this, right? And this will work. Most of the questions are always focusing on what would be the easiest and the most efficient way to do stuff, right? And writing triggers would not be the easiest ways. And on the other hand, having this timestamp and implementing the incremental data loading yourself would not be the easiest way as well, because essentially what you're doing if you do C is you're just building D yourself, more or less. So these were some general tips on how to tackle these questions. Okay, Kevin, I think this is another mystery solved, right?
Definitely.
Any last words on this?
I think I'm going to steal one of Frank's phrases here and say that the change data capture is out there, folks.
Yes, yeah. So, bye and take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Bye.